Humanity's history enters today into a territory that no longer resembles anything we thought we knew. The lines that separated the visible from the invisible are narrowing, as if an ancient boundary were about to open and let an unknown light filter through, a light that does not dazzle but reveals. From Medjugorje comes a voice that does not fade, a voice that crosses decades, that surpasses generations, and continues to reach hearts on every continent. It is a voice that does not accuse, does not impose, does not frighten, but calls with a force that few can ignore. Something has already begun and is perceived in the air like a hidden current, a silent movement that guides the world's events toward a decisive point. Many feel that this time is not like the others. The rhythms, the perceptions, the way events overlap seem to form a different pattern, more intense, more urgent. Prophecies no longer belong to the dusty pages of the past, but shine like lit signals in our present. It is as if all of humanity were walking on a path leading toward a definitive crossroads, a passage that will mark what will be and what can no longer be. In this scenario, Medjugorje does not appear as a simple place, but as a pulsing point, a lighthouse that continues to transmit indications coming from on high. The messages that emerge are never random, never improvised. Every word seems chosen to pierce through the surface of our convictions and touch that inner part that knows the truth even before understanding it. It is as if heaven were placing its gaze upon this time with particular intensity, as if it had decided to speak with greater clarity because the world risks no longer listening. There is an energy that envelops all these warnings, a current that does not push toward fear, but toward an awakening of consciousness. The signs that many ignore are beginning to form a single image, a mosaic that reveals the magnitude of the moment we are living in. It is not about imagining dramatic scenarios, but about perceiving that we have entered the phase in which every choice, every gesture, every opening of the heart acquires a different value, deeper and more decisive. The final battle is not just a prophetic concept, nor a spiritual symbol destined for the most fervent believers. It is a reality that moves the forces of history and calls each of us to a precise role. Medjugorje reveals this with words that leave no room for indifference. Heaven has begun to show what it expects from humanity, and the present time is the place where this revelation takes form. In this framework, every soul is invited to understand its own part, because the beginning of this battle is already before us, and heaven desires that no one remain without guidance. This battle that has just begun does not resemble the wars that fill history books, nor can it be measured with statistics, weapons, or military strategies. It is a battle that crosses epochs, that returns cyclically every time humanity approaches a critical point, but that today assumes a new intensity, almost palpable. It is not made of marching armies, but of consciousnesses that awaken or fade. It does not leave on the ground the visible signs of destruction, but imprints in souls a silent and definitive transformation. It is a battle fought in the deepest spaces of interiority, in those zones where light and darkness touch without ever merging. At Medjugorje, this conflict has been announced many times with words that seem to come from a place where time loses meaning. There is talk of a struggle between what leads to life and what leads to emptiness, between the impulse of good that asks to emerge and the weight of darkness that attempts to envelop everything. The battle concerns the orientation of a world that finds itself suspended between the call to salvation and the seduction of distraction, between the truth that offers itself and the deception that disguises itself as freedom. It is a confrontation that does not explode outwardly, but manifests itself in daily choices, in the impulses that guide the heart, in the fragilities that become open doors to forces that wish to distance man from what truly makes him alive. This battle has received many names in humanity's spiritual history, but at Medjugorje, it is described as the time when heaven and earth draw close until they touch. It is the period when divine action becomes more visible, more intense, almost impatient, because what is at stake no longer concerns only the destiny of individual hearts, but the balance of all humanity. The messages speak of a struggle that is not born of hatred, but of love, because every gesture of heaven aims at salvation, protection, and preparation. It is a battle that wants to prevent dispersion, that wants to prevent the inner collapse of entire generations, that desires to call back those who risk losing themselves without even realizing it. What characterizes this battle is its invisible but powerful nature. The forces at play have no face, but possess a strength that is perceived in everything that happens in the world. There are movements that seem random, but respond to a greater design. Events that accelerate as if an external push were guiding their rhythm. Global transformations that reveal a world that can no longer live in indifference. All of this contributes to revealing that the battle is not something that must arrive, because it has already begun. Heaven declares this firmly through Medjugorje. The confrontation between light and darkness has reached the decisive point, and every soul is called to take a position. It is the time when grace descends with force and when darkness attempts its most intense assault, because it knows that what is decided now will have an echo that will surpass the horizon of this generation. What heaven expects from us in this time is not an imposed task, nor a sterile duty that requires superhuman efforts. It is something much more intimate, much more ancient, much more rooted in the essence of the human being. It is as if the high were bringing us back toward a point from which we should never have deviated, an inner place where the divine voice still speaks with clarity. This time carries with it a silent but insistent appeal, an invitation that crosses the days like a golden thread capable of binding together lost creatures and merciful heaven. In every message, in every apparition, the same current is perceived, the same direction, the same desire to bring man back to his deepest truth. Heaven expects humanity to awaken what has fallen asleep, to recover that inner light that too often is suffocated by frenzy, confusion, and the weight of the world. It is not about heroic gestures, nor about great public revolutions, but about a transformation that occurs in the most hidden spaces of consciousness. It is a call to vigilance of the heart, so that every person can recognize what is authentic and what is illusion, what nourishes and what drains, what leads to good and what opens the way to shadow. Heaven asks that light be chosen voluntarily, because light never enters by force, but settles only where it finds an opening. It is perceived, through the words that at Medjugorje have continued to descend for over 40 years, that heaven awaits a response, an availability, a step that is not born of fear, but of awareness. Humanity is being accompanied toward a decisive time, and heaven desires that every soul be ready to bear the weight of the truth that will be revealed. It is as if history were accelerating toward a point where nothing can be confused anymore. And what heaven asks is to begin already now to live in clarity, a clarity that concerns not only faith, but the way of breathing, of looking at others, of facing pain, of resisting the temptation to harden the heart. There is an expectation that runs through all the messages. Heaven wants humanity to learn again to recognize its own origin. We were not created to wander aimlessly, nor to let ourselves be dragged by the currents of a world that changes direction every day. We were generated to carry a light that does not belong to matter, a light capable of transforming the spaces it crosses. In this time, heaven expects every person to remember their own mission, that deep reason for which they were placed on earth. Heaven awaits courage, not aggression. It awaits firmness, not closure. It awaits purity, not perfection. It awaits eyes capable of seeing beyond the noise of the world, hands that know how to build instead of destroy, hearts that resist the winds of selfishness and indifference. It awaits souls that are not afraid to belong to the light, even when darkness attempts to impose itself. This time requires stability, lucidity, and faithfulness to the inner voice that knows how to distinguish what is eternal from what is fleeting. Heaven expects a people who know how to walk in the night without extinguishing their own fire, because what is about to come will need burning hearts. And every heart that remains awake becomes a point of light that guides others, until it creates a luminous pattern capable of changing the outcome of the invisible battle that crosses this generation. This waiting is not a burden, but a gift that prepares the victory of light in the time that is coming. Now that the message has been revealed and the path stands before us with new clarity, the most delicate moment arrives: inner preparation. Not a preparation made of agitation or fear, but a disposition of the heart that is born from the desire to belong to the light. We are called to become vigilant creatures, capable of guarding what we have received, of resisting the noise of the world, and of keeping lit that silent fire that makes us ready for the encounter with what is coming. Each of us is invited to a personal journey, unique, intimate, but at the same time shared with millions of souls who in this time feel the same current, the same call, the same sweet and powerful urgency. The preparation consists in letting the heart return to breathing the truth, in allowing grace to shape every fragility, in choosing the way of peace even when darkness advances. It consists in recognizing that we are not alone, that heaven follows every step, that the battle that seems to belong only to invisible forces also needs our daily faithfulness. Heaven asks for what we can give, not what exceeds us. It asks for openness, not perfection. It asks for constancy, not heroism. It asks for a whispered yes that becomes the starting point for all that will come. And now, in the inner silence of those who listen, a prayer rises that is not only words, but movement of the soul. A prayer that unites all, that strengthens, that guides, that prepares. May heaven envelop us with its light. May the Mother take us by the hand and lead us through the storms. May every shadow be dissolved by the force of grace. May our homes become refuges of peace. May our steps follow the road that has been traced for this time. May our heart remain awake, steadfast, burning. May the Spirit descend like fire that purifies and illuminates. May our life become a sign, a lighthouse, a call for those who have lost their way. In this time so great and so fragile, we ask to be prepared, protected, guided. May the light descend upon us, and may nothing be able to extinguish it. So be it. Amen.